Imagine walking into a room and immediately sensing that one person who carries themselves differently. They're not trying to impress anyone, they're not seeking approval, they're just there, confident, self-contained, and yet somehow they are the most captivating person in the room. Now think about the people we chase in life. Are they the ones who are always available, always eager, always at our beck and call? Or are they the ones who seem just a little bit out of reach? Someone we can't quite figure out, someone who leaves us wanting more. This is the psychology of attraction. This is the power of detachment. Men, by nature, are drawn to challenge. It's not about playing games, it's about understanding human behavior. When a woman is overly attached, too eager, or constantly available, something interesting happens. She stops being seen. Familiarity can breed complacency. The mind starts to take for granted what it knows it can have at any time. But the moment she steps back, not as a tactic, but because she genuinely values herself, something shifts. When a woman operates from a place of self-worth rather than seeking external validation, her energy changes. She doesn't chase, she attracts. She isn't waiting for someone to complete her, she is already whole. And that is magnetic. Detachment is not about distance, it's about presence with boundaries. It's about knowing that the right person will step up, not because they're being manipulated into it, but because they genuinely want to. The irony of attraction is that the less you need from someone, the more they want to give you. The less you seek validation, the more people crave your approval. The less you chase, the more you are pursued. So the question isn't, how do I make someone want me? The question is, how do I become the person I would want to be around? And the answer is simple, by being whole, independent, and detached. Not from love, but from the need for it. Because at the end of the day, the most attractive person in any room is the one who knows they don't need to be. There's something undeniably magnetic about mystery. Think about the last time you became deeply curious about someone. What was it that drew you in? Was it their immediate availability, their predictability, or their eagerness to please? Probably not. More often than not, we find ourselves captivated by those who reveal just enough to spark our interest, but not enough to fully satisfy it. This isn't about playing games or withholding for the sake of control. It's about human nature. Our brains are wired to be drawn to the unknown. When something or someone is entirely laid out before us, there's no reason to keep searching, no puzzle left to solve. But when we sense that there is more beneath the surface, that's when intrigue sets in. It's the space between knowing and not knowing that fuels attraction. Think about storytelling. The best novels, the most captivating movies, the most unforgettable conversations, they all have one thing in common. They don't give everything away at once. They unfold slowly, drawing us in with anticipation, making us want to lean in and learn more. When a woman embodies this naturally, not by withholding affection, but by genuinely living a full and independent life, she becomes someone worth discovering. Intrigue isn't just about what is seen, it's about what is felt. It's the quiet confidence of a woman who doesn't need to explain herself. It's the way she carries herself, the way she responds instead of reacts, the way she makes someone wonder, not because she's being distant, but because she's simply immersed in her own world. That kind of presence is rare, and anything rare is valuable. Why do people instinctively desire what is rare? Why do limited edition items, exclusive memberships, and one-of-a-kind experiences hold so much more appeal than things that are easily accessible? The answer is simple. When something is scarce, its perceived value increases. This principle isn't just about material goods. It applies to human relationships as well. When something is always available, it becomes ordinary. The human mind naturally starts to take it for granted. This is why people often overlook what is right in front of them and chase what feels just out of reach. When someone knows they can have something at any time, the urgency to attain it diminishes. But when access is limited, when there's an element of exclusivity, the desire to obtain it intensifies. This is not about manipulation, but about self-worth. A person who makes themselves too available, who constantly seeks attention or validation, sends an unspoken message: I am easy to attain. On the other hand, someone who values their time, their energy, and their presence creates an aura of exclusivity. They are not scarce because they are playing hard to get. They are scarce because they are genuinely selective. Scarcity also cultivates appreciation. The effort required to attain something directly impacts how much we cherish it. When someone has to invest time and energy into a relationship, they naturally value it more. People respect what they earn. They cherish what they have to work for. The things that come too easily, no matter how wonderful, often lose their impact. Attraction isn't about being constantly present, it's about being meaningfully present. It's about creating a dynamic where someone feels that being with you is a privilege, not a given. Scarcity in this sense is not about withdrawal, it's about prioritization. It's about understanding that true value isn't in being constantly available, but in knowing that your presence is something that must be earned. Confidence is one of the most magnetic traits a person can have. It commands attention without demanding it. It creates a presence that draws people in rather than pushing them away. Clinginess, on the other hand, has the opposite effect. It stems from insecurity, from a fear of loss, and from a desperate need for validation. The contrast between the two is striking, and the difference in how people respond to them is undeniable. Confidence signals security. A confident woman knows her worth and does not seek constant reassurance from others. She does not need to be in constant communication or demand proof of affection. Instead, she operates with the quiet understanding that if something is meant for her, it will naturally align. She trusts in her own presence and does not feel the need to beg for attention or force a connection. This certainty creates a gravitational pull. People are drawn to those who are sure of themselves. Clinginess, however, comes from a place of fear. It manifests as over-texting, over-explaining, and overcompensating. It's the need to always be in control of the situation, to make sure the other person isn't losing interest, to hold on too tightly in the hopes that it will keep the relationship intact. But ironically, the more someone clings, the more they push the other person away. The dynamic shifts from attraction to obligation, from desire to pressure. Nobody wants to feel suffocated, no matter how much they care. Confidence is attractive because it creates space for both people to breathe. It allows room for natural attraction to grow. It communicates that one's happiness and self-worth are not dependent on another person's approval. And in doing so, it makes someone all the more desirable. A woman who exudes confidence doesn't chase, she simply exists in a way that makes others want to come closer. There is something undeniably compelling about a person who stands firmly on their own, emotionally self-sufficient and whole. Emotional independence is not about detachment or indifference. It's about possessing a deep sense of self that isn't dependent on external validation. It's about knowing that happiness, fulfillment, and stability come from within, not from someone else's presence, approval, or reassurance. When someone is emotionally independent, they bring a sense of calm and security into any relationship. They are not looking for another person to complete them or to fill a void in their life. Instead, they seek a connection that enhances what they have already built for themselves. This creates an energy that is naturally attractive because it removes pressure from the relationship. There is no expectation that one person must constantly soothe, fix, or validate the other. It is a partnership built on mutual respect rather than dependency. Emotional dependence, on the other hand, creates a dynamic of neediness. When someone relies on another person for their sense of happiness or self-worth, the relationship starts to feel like a burden rather than a choice. Instead of being a source of joy, it becomes an emotional obligation. The weight of constantly having to reassure or prove love can drain even the strongest connection. The more someone depends on another for their emotional well-being, the less space there is for natural attraction and respect to flourish. Independence in a relationship does not mean emotional distance. It means being secure enough in oneself to love freely rather than from a place of fear. It means choosing to be with someone not out of necessity, but out of genuine desire. When a person is emotionally independent, they become more attractive not because they are unavailable, but because they bring value to a relationship rather than seeking to take from it. They do not need constant validation, which makes any affection they receive feel all the more genuine and powerful. Human nature is wired for pursuit. People instinctively chase what moves away from them and overlook what is easily within reach. This isn't just a behavioral pattern, it's a psychological response. The moment something becomes uncertain, the mind becomes fixated on it. The moment something appears slightly out of reach, it suddenly seems more valuable. This is the law of pursuit. Think about the things that hold the most value in life. Whether it's a dream job, a personal goal, or even an object of desire, the effort required to attain something directly influences how much it is appreciated. Relationships operate in the same way. When someone is too available, too eager, or too easy to attain, the natural instinct to pursue diminishes. But when there is an element of challenge, when a person maintains their individuality, their standards, and their boundaries, the desire to close the gap intensifies. This is not about manipulation, but about understanding how attraction works. The thrill of pursuit is not about games or artificial distance. It's about the psychological impact of effort. When someone has to put in work to earn something, they naturally value it more. The mind associates effort with importance. If something is too readily given, it is subconsciously perceived as less valuable. And that people often assume that making themselves constantly available will deepen attraction, but the opposite is often true. The more someone chases, the more the other person instinctively withdraws. But when a person holds their ground, when they have their own priorities, their own life, their own sense of self, the dynamic shifts. The pursuer now feels the desire to bridge the distance, to earn a place in that person's world. This is why those who are deeply secure in themselves often find themselves naturally pursued. It's not because they are playing hard to get. It's because they are simply not chasing. They are too focused on living their lives, on being the best version of themselves, and in doing so, they become something worth chasing. The human mind thrives on excitement, unpredictability, and the thrill of the unknown. When something is completely certain, it loses its spark. This applies to nearly every aspect of life: adventure, career, personal growth, and most importantly, attraction. People are naturally drawn to things that keep them engaged, guessing, and invested. When a relationship becomes too predictable, it risks becoming mundane. In the early stages of attraction, uncertainty plays a key role. The excitement of not knowing what will happen next, the anticipation of a response, and the gradual unfolding of emotions create an addictive energy. This is why the early days of a relationship often feel electric, because they are filled with possibilities. Every conversation holds a new discovery. Every interaction carries an element of suspense. But when everything becomes too certain too quickly, that excitement fades. This doesn't mean that stability is important. Long-term relationships thrive on trust and reliability. But stability is different from predictability. Stability is about emotional security, while predictability is about a lack of excitement. When someone knows exactly how another person will act, react, and behave at all times, they stop paying attention. Their mind stops engaging, and their emotions become passive. This is why detachment can be so powerful. A person who remains somewhat unpredictable, not in a manipulative way, but in a way that reflects their independent nature, naturally holds attention. They are not always available, not always reacting in the same way, and not always following a script. They keep life interesting because they are genuinely immersed in their own world, their own passions, and their own. Certainty may feel comfortable, but it does not create longing. What keeps people engaged is the sense that there's always more to learn, more to experience, and more to uncover. The key is not to manufacture mystery, but to live in a way that naturally creates it, by being a person who is ever evolving, ever growing, and never entirely predictable. People may hear what you say, but they feel who you are. Long before words are exchanged, energy has already communicated everything that needs to be known. It's in the way a person carries themselves, the way they enter a room, the way they hold their gaze, and the way they move through life. Energy is the unspoken language that dictates attraction, and it is often far more powerful than any deliberate effort to impress. Have you ever noticed how some people command attention without saying a word? They don't beg for validation, they don't overshare, and they don't seek approval, yet their presence is undeniable. This is because confidence, self-assurance, and inner peace radiate from within. A person who is grounded in themselves exudes an effortless magnetism. It's not what they say, it's what they project. On the other hand, desperation, insecurity, and neediness can be felt just as easily. No matter how well someone crafts their words or presents themselves outwardly, if their energy carries the weight of uncertainty or self-doubt, it will be perceived. This is why attraction is rarely about trying harder, it's about being different. A person who operates from a place of confidence and emotional detachment naturally attracts others without even trying. Energy is contagious. People gravitate toward those who make them feel good, those who bring a sense of peace rather than tension, and those who exude self-respect rather than neediness. When someone is comfortable in their own presence, they create an inviting space that others want to be a part of. This is why a detached woman, one who is secure in herself, engaged in her own life, and not seeking external validation, naturally becomes irresistible. She does not need to prove her worth because her energy already speaks for her. Attraction isn't about saying the right things or making the right moves. It's about embodying the right energy. And the most powerful energy is the one that says, I am enough on my own. There is something about a challenge that sparks desire, fuels pursuit, and deepens appreciation. The human brain is wired to value what it has to work for, and men in particular are naturally inclined toward competition and conquest. When something is easily obtained, it is quickly taken for granted. But when there is an element of difficulty, something to earn, something to prove, something to win, the desire to attain it grows stronger. This isn't about playing hard to get. It's about understanding what makes attraction last. The effort put into something determines how much it is valued. A woman who holds high standards, who isn't easily swayed, and who doesn't immediately bend to another's will naturally commands more attention. She isn't difficult for the sake of difficulty. She is simply selective. And that selectiveness makes her presence feel like a privilege rather than an expectation. When something is too readily available, it fails to activate the part of the mind that thrives on pursuit. This is why men often lose interest when there is no sense of challenge. It's not that they don't want love or connection, it's that they are drawn to what feels earned rather than handed to them. The process of proving oneself, of gaining trust, of working towards something meaningful creates emotional investment. And without it, the attraction can quickly fade into complacency. The challenge isn't about resistance, but about self-respect. A woman who values herself doesn't seek approval or chase affection. She doesn't compromise her standards out of fear of losing someone. Instead, she allows the right person to rise to the occasion. And in doing so, she ignites something powerful, the natural, instinctive drive to pursue and cherish what is not so easily won. The more effort someone puts into something, the more they cherish it. This is a fundamental principle of human psychology. When people invest time, energy, and emotion into something, whether it's a career, a skill, or a relationship, they naturally assign it greater value. The same applies to attraction. The more a person has to work for a connection, the more meaningful it becomes to them. When something is easily given with no effort required, it is often taken for granted. There is no sense of achievement, no feeling of having earned it, and therefore no deep attachment to it. This is why relationships that develop too quickly, without any sense of pursuit or effort, often lose their spark just as fast. On the other hand, when someone has to show up consistently, prove their intentions, and invest in the process, they form a deeper emotional connection. They feel a sense of ownership and pride in what they have built. This is why detachment can be so powerful. A woman who does not give herself away too easily, who allows a relationship to develop naturally with effort from both sides, automatically becomes more valued. She is not withholding love or playing games. She is simply allowing space for the other person to invest. She understands that love is not about immediate gratification, but about mutual effort and commitment over time. People appreciate what they work for. They remember what they had to strive for. They cherish what required patience and persistence. A relationship that is built on this foundation of effort is far more likely to last because both people feel a deep sense of value in what they have created together. It's not about making things difficult. It's about allowing things to unfold in a way that ensures they are truly meaningful. Attraction is often misunderstood. It's commonly thought that creating distance, being aloof, or playing hard to get is the key to drawing someone in. But in truth, attraction is not about absence, it's about the power of presence. Specifically, presence with boundaries. When someone is fully engaged in their own life, pursuing their passions and living with intention, they naturally create a magnetic energy. Their presence isn't about forcing others to chase or making themselves scarce, it's about being in a way that commands respect and attention. A woman who is fully herself, who knows her worth, and who operates from a place of inner strength doesn't need to be absent to create. Instead, she sets clear boundaries that reinforce her value and self-respect. Boundaries are essential because they communicate that a person is not willing to settle for anything less than what they deserve. They are not walls or walls of defense. They are markers of self-respect. When someone sets boundaries, they are essentially saying, this is who I am, this is what I will accept, and this is what I won't tolerate. Boundaries create a safe space for both people to grow and invest in the relationship without fear of being taken for granted. True attraction comes from understanding that relationships are not about power struggles or proving worth through absence or games. It's about having the strength to show up fully while also maintaining the self-respect to not overextend oneself. A person who is confident in their own value does not chase affection or bend over backward for approval. They show up as they are, offering their best selves to those who respect their boundaries. Presence without boundaries can feel overwhelming or even suffocating. But when someone shows up with a clear sense of their own limits and desires, their energy becomes magnetic. It's not about playing hard to get. It's about being fully present in your own life while protecting your emotional space. That balance of presence and boundaries creates a sense of mystery and respect, both of which are essential components of lasting attraction. In conclusion, the dynamics of attraction are complex and multifaceted, but they all revolve around the concept of balance. Balance between presence and detachment, engagement and boundaries. It's not about playing games or manipulating emotions, but about cultivating a genuine self-respect and offering a space where connection can flourish. When you show up with full presence, yet hold firm boundaries, you create a dynamic that fosters desire, respect, and emotional investment. You signal that you value yourself, that your time and energy are precious, and that those who wish to enter your world must do so with intention and care. This natural blend of presence and boundaries not only deepens connections, but ensures they are built on a solid foundation of mutual respect, making the bond stronger and the attraction lasting.